Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to continue with our engine rebuild. We're going to sort out the pistons and barrels, cylinder heads, make sure everything's okay, sort them out, get them back on the engine. And there's really not a lot else to do then, because as this is a spare engine, it won't be putting the cowlings on, all that sort of stuff, until it's ready for use. So this is a core rebuild. So we might as well get stuck in, might we? See what we find. Onward and upward. Okay, our barrel's ready to go as we saw before. The arrow and the pistons pointing forwards, front of the engine pointing that way. Our fins are lined up with our studs. I've started the gudgeon pin in the piston, and we're going to have to line it up now with the eye of the conrod, which will get some of my favourite assembly lube. The piston's already lubed. The only slight fly in the ointment is that this gudgeon pin appears to be tighter than I would normally be happy with, but given it's an assembly that came off a working car, it must have been fine. So it is slightly tighter than I thought it would be. The surface where the cylinder spigot fits into the cases is in good condition. But I'm just going to add a small amount of grease just to try and prevent any dissimilar metal corrosion, which theoretically could happen. It hadn't on these, it hasn't on lots of them, but in theory it could. Therefore a small wipe of grease won't do it any harm at all. And then the lapping on the top I haven't done because both the barrel and the heads are in very good condition, so I don't need to do that. I will add a small amount of grease when we come to that, but anyway. So that needs to go in there like that. The eye needs to go in the piston, and then there I have to leave it for a minute because I've got to get some light in from this side to see where we're going. But before I do that, I'm going to have to warm the piston up, because as I say, this pin does not want to slide freely, so it's going to need some help. It is definitely engaged with the eye of the conrod, so I'm not worried about imparting sideways force like I mentioned when I was taking it apart, because everything is supported in relation to the rod. Let's see if it'll now move. Yes. I am only tapping it, as you can see. It always sounds louder on camera, I don't know why, but it always sounds much louder. Right, so we're well in. I need to find a socket now to tap that final part, which of course I should have done before I started, but as we have already discovered, organisation is not necessarily my strongest point. So again, everything's well supported, there's no sideways movement on the conrod at all. And that's it, fully home. And our clip groove is fully accessible. Now, if you recall, in my shopping bag from ECAS, I bought those, which are far superior to the, in my opinion, to the wire clips that were used originally. Far superior. So these just need compressing. And inserting. Like so. To get absolutely sure they're in. And I can move them in the groove, which shows they are in. Excellent. And then we need to slide our barrel down. And into place. There we are. It's all well oiled, it's all coming out with the piston, which is good. Right, I'll now do the other side. There's no point in watching me do that, it's exactly the same. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And I'll bring you back when we're ready to do the heads. Push heads just push into the cam followers, lubricated at the bottom end. I lubricated the cups that these sit in at the top end. I've rolled these on the bench just to make sure they're straight, which is an inexact method, but gives a rough idea, and they are indeed straight. So our overhauled head is ready to go on. Washer, spring, cup, rubber seal, all in place, and then pushed onto the tube. I find is easiest, and then just a smear of grease. Some people put sealer on there, I don't, but I don't suppose there's any reason why you couldn't. And then we've got to get the pushrod tubes in there. We've got to line up the studs and then slide it all home, which all sounds nice and easy. But unless you're very careful, it's easy to bash these against the case as you're sliding it home. So you've got to go very slow and make sure everything's lined up perfectly before you slide it finally home. Now, both the cylinder head and the barrel are in good condition. There is no sign of any corrosion or damage or anything like that. So I'm not lapping them in. What I am going to do, once again, like the bottom, I'm just going to add a very thin smear of grease where the two join. Very thin, but enough, because again you've got dissimilar metals which can corrode together and do corrode together. Right, so our adjusters are backed off, well they should be. Everything should be ready to go. We can put the push rods in there. And then line up our studs. Which are greased, by the way, I've greased the studs. And then you've got to make sure that they're lined up at the bottom, which they are. That's it. Like so. Now then, you have a copper washer on top there, copper washer on there, and the bottom one is a solid metal washer. Right, so before we apply any pressure, we should make sure our tubes are in place, which they appear to be. Yep. We can wind a little bit of tension on our push rods just to keep them in place as we tighten things up. Good. So we need our deep 12mm socket, and we need to take the head down very slowly and evenly. If you watch down and try and keep it square as you're doing it, which I think we are. Right. So they're all just down finger tight. square. Nothing obviously out of line. Good. So we can now torque our cylinder head nuts, which according to my manual is an initial tightening torque of 7 pounds. If I remember rightly, the sequence is the top two and then the bottom one. I'll just double check that before I do the final tightening. Right, £15. And it should be that one, I think. Upper front, upper rear, that one, to £15. Now, the factory workshop manual says you should fit the manifold before you fully tighten these. This engine isn't getting its manifold on for some time because it's, as I say, it's going to be a core unit. So I will torque it down now, just so you can see it's being done. I may have to fiddle about with it later when I do come round to fitting the manifolds, but I will worry about that later. Right, Citroen actually give a range for these up to 16, but aftermarket says 15, which is in the middle, so we'll just go by that. Right, double check all of these. Yeah. Right. Obviously valve adjustment will have to be done later as well. So that's the cylinder head on. I will do the other side again, you don't need to see me do that. And then we'll fit the oil pipes. Okay, I've set the valves. I didn't show you that because it's on another video, which is the 2CV flat spot video, which should be out by the time you see this. So the procedure's laid out there, it's very simple. Just follow the workshop manual in that respect, very, very easy. So now we're going to put on our oil feed pipe, which is secured by 3 bolts. Now, this pipe probably looks in horrible condition on camera, but it's actually not bad at all. It's discoloured, but they normally rust really badly, and it's not that badly gone. So we have 3 bolts, one with a big hole in the middle. There, I don't know if you can see that, big hole, and 2 small holes. So the small holes go in the head, big holes go in the crankcase. Using our double washers from the gasket set. Now, this can be very fiddly and also easy to damage, so you've got to really take your time and try and get it lined up, which it doesn't want to do. Okay, let's try a slightly different approach and see if we can get one in the head started, just to take the weight a bit, because it obviously all just dangles about. So we'll try one in the head over here. Not tight, just finger tight. And we'll try one in the head over here. Clip goes under there. See the slight springiness, so you've got to be really careful. Jiggle it about as you put it in, just to make sure the threads are starting. So that's in, that's in. The clip's roughly in position. So now we'll try the crank again. Crankcase again. Because obviously the last thing you want to do is strip any of this. And there we are. Lovely. So they're all started. Now, there is a torque setting for these in the manual. I've never done it. I normally just tighten them gently down by hand. because it's very low setting. Would help me get the right spanner. Yeah, they have a very, very low torque setting, so I just like to nip them down gently by hand. Caused me a problem, thankfully. Touch wood. Right, so that's on tight, that's tight, that's tight. That's clipped in, it's got its rubber protector against the crankcase. That's tight. Okay. Good. So next, I suppose, breather pipe, breather tower, call it what you will. Rocker covers. We'll do the rocker covers next for a laugh, shall we? So I have cleaned our rocker covers up inside. We have new gaskets. And I'm just going to put a tiny blob of black sealant stroke adhesive. Can you see that? No, you can't. I'm wittering on. Yeah, a tiny blob of black sealant stroke adhesive just to hold it in place. So, blob, 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 blob. It's just to stop it moving about while you mess about with them, really. And stick them down. Not a great fit. There you go. And I like to smear a head on them where they sit on the head. Again, don't need a lot, just to encourage a seal. I'll show you one and then I'll do the other one in a minute. Starts to look like an engine, isn't it? And of course there is, as always, a torque setting for that. A very low 3 to 5. Can you see that still? Yep, just about. Right, I'll do the other one and bring you back. Okay, oil cooler next. I've got a second-hand one to go on. The original one was knackered, as we know. So, preliminary efforts. Just to grease where the nuts sleeve section will fit. So the nuts will fit there. Give it plenty of grease in the vain hope that it won't seize up in use. Ha ha. And then up top we have a mounting bolt. Just check out, go through our cases easily. Put some grease in that as well. So now the cavity is well greased. And you remove a couple of sleeves which sit either side of the cooler, which are also greased. Right. So we have rubber seals, which I bought in addition to the gasket set because I couldn't remember whether the gasket set had them, and the gasket set does so. And I have spare seals. They just slide over the pipe, and in theory grease our threads as well. Don't want to be tight with the corrosion protection on these, as we know. No, there's a problem if you're not generous. Right, so in theory, they should just poke in there. Again, a slight springiness to the parts. and we get that started. Slightly awkward because you've got to spring in that way and an attempt to come out this way. So you're fighting in both directions. And you obviously need to make sure they're started properly before we put a spanner anywhere near them. Because again, don't want these cross-threading. Yeah, I think it's got those. Let's just try a spanner on them carefully. 16mm. As I say, slow and steady with these, you don't want to damage the cooler or the cases. Right, so whilst we still have a little bit of wiggle room, we'll fit our upper mount, which is, as I say, a sleeve and 2 bolts, which can also be slightly awkward. So get them started. I realise you probably can't see a lot of this, but you know what I'm doing. As this doesn't want to fit. Oh dear. Okay. We have a problem getting the sleeve in. There we go. Come on. I've got to give that a little tap. There we go. Lovely. So let's usually put our 11mm nut and washer on. Good. So we should continue tightening up our nuts at the bottom. Tight. And tight. Lovely. Oh, you silly sausage. Right, okay. Having done all that, guess who's forgotten to put the plate in behind it? Right, I'll bring you back when I've fitted the plate and done that again. You've seen how it goes on. Wasn't paying attention. Stupid me. Right, plate in place. Didn't take very long, thank goodness. So, breather tower on. There's a gasket on the block already. I've used a small amount of sealant because there's a lot of oil vapour associated with this. And then it's 2 11mm. Can't see what I'm doing because that light's shining straight in my eyes. Right, there we are, it's on. As I say, these lights are here, you can't see them in the off camera. So I couldn't see where the bolts were going. Right, so it's on, it's tight. There's a new piece of braided hose between there and there because the original rubber one was a bit shagged out, to be honest. So, there isn't really a lot I intend doing now to this engine. I've just put the advanced retard unit on, which I'll have to dig about in a box for, and then I will seal everything up, because I'll just grease them first though, because I don't intend using it straight away. As I say, this is my spare engine, so it will be going into storage. It'll be wrapped in thin polythene, but I will fill it with oil and turn it over quite a lot to get some oil around, and then I'll seal up all the open orifices, put some plugs in it, and then wrap it up. I think that basically is pretty much the end of our core unit rebuild. I'll have to find a dipstick wherever that's gone. Let me go and see if we can find those bits, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Right, I've fitted the points cam and the auto advance unit. That just pushes into place fairly simply and is retained by a circular clip, which is slightly less easy to get into place. There we go. Yep. I've filled it with oil. I've turned the engine over quite a lot to make sure it's circulating. I've fitted a pair of plugs, Bearus. I normally use Achem if I can get them, but Bearus because they were available and they were cheap, and I got a few of them at a low price. Perfectly good plugs. I've used them before in quite a few vehicles. And then I've sealed up the inlet and exhaust holes in the cylinder head. And then now the entire engine will be wrapped in thin plastic sheeting to keep damp out of it until I'm ready to use it. There's no point fitting the flywheel, just adds weight unnecessarily. That's pretty much it. I don't have any cowls and things. If I'd had cowls available, I would have built a complete engine ready to drop in, but I haven't got them at the minute. If I get them, and I'm hopeful because I'm following some at the minute on the internet, if I get them, I'll bring you back and we'll finish it off with complete cowls, everything ready to fit onto the car. But I haven't got those yet, so that'll have to wait. I'll obviously put the dipstick in to seal that up. So there's no open orifices left, everything's enclosed, sealed, greased, well lubricated, there's oil in it. It should sit like this in a dry garage in a cupboard. It's going in a cupboard. It should sit like that, perfectly safe for a very long time until I need it. Or until somebody else needs one. You never know. A fellow enthusiast might need one first, in which case I'll do an exchange and start all over again. So the next video will probably be rebuilding a carburetor. So, because if you're going to fit a new engine and things, you probably want to fit a new carb. Or at least rebuild your old carb, which is more likely. So there we go. That's it for the engine build. Hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, tell your friends, etc, etc, etc. Please keep calling back to the garage if you don't subscribe. There will be lots more 2CV stuff going on, as well as motorbike stuff and other general car stuff as and when I do it, because I just can't stop tinkering. So, for the moment, goodbye, and I hope to see you soon.